What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerdcast for the next episode in our weekly indie newcomer series where you and I sit down for a little while and play a game that has infatuated me over the course of the last week. Sometimes it's a review, sometimes it's just impressions, sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, depending on my mood, but today we're going to be checking out Xenobloom, which is a very odd little game, and I wasn't sure if I was going to feature it, because this is a very strange niche title that I think is not going to appeal to everyone, but for a select group of people, this game is going to fascinate you for several hours, and you're just going to fiddle with it nonstop until you have like this crazy thing going on. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let me explain what Xenobloom is here. Xenobloom is essentially a simulator sandbox where you're a god who's trying to evolve new plants and species on a biome of your own creation. And so essentially it gives you a blank slate, and then you just plant plants. Well, you don't even plant them, really. You kind of just inject various things like, oh, I don't know, potassium, oxygen, nitrogen, things like that into the soil, and then you just watch stuff happen. And through growing plants, you will evolve new plants, and it's more of an observational experience than anything, which is why I really couldn't recommend it to everybody. It's kind of an interactive screensaver in that weird way, but once you start watching it and things start happening, I found it to be a lot of fun, and I actually killed a bunch of hours on it over the course of this week, so I figured I would show it off here. So without further ado, let's play some Xenobloom, shall we? So the first thing you notice, no music or anything like that. The game is very, very minimalist right now. It's just a game that you could fiddle around with while you have your Pandora or Netflix on, and I promise you, we're going to get started here in just a second, but there's a couple of things we need to know. I'm going to pause the game up here. These are going to be your speed settings. Oh, apparently there is music. What do I know about anything? Apparently I learned that just now. We're going to turn that off real quick. And so the things you want to watch out for here, we have deep soil. We have soil that's a little bit higher up in altitude, so it's closer to the surface. So if it's coming from the roof, it gets deeper in that direction. If it's coming from the floor, it gets deeper in that direction. And then if it's in the middle biosphere right here, it goes inwards from the outwards layer. We've got a couple of meters you want to pay attention to. The yellow meter, that's how much God power you have left. That is your power bar. No, not your fitness supplement. It is your power bar. It's how you can like inject life into the world and change things around and manipulate the way the world works. These meters over here on the left, you have heart, you have radiation, you have sunlight, you have wind, I think. You've got carbon. I think this one right here is, what is this one right here? I always forget what this one is. One of these is wind, one of these is I don't know what that one is. Oxygen, potassium, and nitrogen as far, or no, it's phosphate. That's what it is. And so anyways, you've got all these different things that you could tailor up. Up is always better, down is always bad, and you can have your biome die off and just finish with zero biomass, and that is when the game is over, is when you're out of power and you can't grow anything else. The point of the game, I guess, is just to get your biomass as high as possible. I've gotten it up to about 8,500 so far, and that's the best that I've ever done by fiddling with it for hours. For right now, the first things that I like to do, we're going to take our shovel here, and we're going to destroy all this ground right here, because destroying ground gives you more power, as you can see from that meter right there. And so in destroying the ground, we'll get ourselves a little bit of starting power to play with. I like to raise my heart. That's going to cost us power. And then I also like to raise my carbon first. And those are the two that I always go for. Now, the next thing that we want to do here is we want to take a look. We've got bacteria growing in the soil at the bottom. And so we want to click on this plants menu here. And we want to take in some of the various attributes of this bacteria, because these are randomly generated. So it starts out at a fitness of 7. It is hardy. I don't know exactly what all these things do. One recommendation that I could give to the developers of the game is maybe to give a tooltip when you mouse over these things. It would be nice to have something that pops out and tells you exactly what each of these mean, because I don't really know what the difference is between hardy and fitness. I know that higher fitness is better, and these are good as well, and that hardy things tend to choke out, hardy and fit things tend to choke out things that are not hardy and fit, or they can grow in less constraints, and so basically bacteria can grow all over the place without you having to worry about it, whereas if it wasn't very fit and it wasn't very hardy, it needs very, very specific areas that it can grow, be that a cave or be that any other type of biome you can create for it. In addition, you'll see that this bacteria, it hates middle elevation, so that's anything in like that box right there. That's good because our map only has a top and a bottom, so that's cool. It also will not grow inverted. That doesn't really matter for right now. Growing inverted only matters if the object is actually hanging from the roof, and so you can change that around if you had extra power for it. We do not, and so for right now what we want to do is we'll close that down. Oop, I didn't want to do that right there. And perhaps what we'll think about doing at this moment is we're going to turn the game on. We're going to go to Breath of Life right here, and we're just going to blow that around a little bit. This Breath of Life, I don't know exactly how it interacts with the game, but I know that when it runs over tiles, it makes them more fertile, and it makes them more able to carry species. And so now what we want to do is whenever these bacteria down here become mature, we want to harvest them. And you'll see up at the top now, because our DNA meter went up, it said that we have evolved tall grass, and you can see that growing right there. Let me go ahead and harvest a little bit more down in here. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell what's ready to go and what what isn't. But once you get further into the game, you can kind of just like drag it over the entire surface, and you'll generate power and things like that for yourself. We're about to evolve a second plant. In fact, I'm going to go up twice so we can make this go a little bit smoother. And so here the game is at double speed. We got bacteria growing. We've got little plants. The top of the screen is actually flourishing pretty well too. We've now evolved ringlet vines, which are actually going to... Let's go to our plant menu real fast and we'll find out what ringlet vines are good at. So tall grass, it hates high elevations, so this is obviously never going to happen at high elevations. We just don't want to worry about it. It's hardy and its fitness is okay. It takes 48 cycles for it to grow. That's 48 seconds, but I guess it would be more like... Oh, something a little bit less for us because we got it on a higher speed. But I wanted to look at ringlet vines, and so these do not grow inverted. In fact, I think the better plan here would be to make these grow inverted. It hates low elevations, and it will not grow inverted. So those two things are at odds with each other. So what I would like to do is I would like to make it so that it likes high elevations, and then I would like it to grow inverted, but we're going to have to wait before we evolve that a little bit further. So let's go ahead and clean this on out. Oh, it is growing inverted right now in spite of itself. Well, look at you being all fit and happy and doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. Good for you, ringlet vine. I believed in you this whole time. I believed in you. Cut a couple more and we got flower root now. Let's go ahead and pause and find out what flower root does. Flower root does not like to grow inverted, but I did want to change this. So let's make it grow inverted. Now, I don't know if that's inverted from its natural configuration. So what we may learn right here is that if it doesn't like to grow inverted, maybe it likes to grow from the roof, and so it doesn't like to grow from the floor is what they're saying, but I don't really know. We'll watch for a second. Yes, indeed, we did. We totally killed off that plant right there just by changing its attributes. So that's a little bit unfortunate. We definitely don't want any extinction events here. I'm going to use the next little bit of power to raise oxygen and also raise the wind. So this one up here, I think, actually that's water. This one up here is rain. That's what it is. I remember now. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest some plants real fast, and I'm actually going to set this back. It was the second case when we talked about the ringlet vine. And so let's harvest some of our bacteria. We just evolved mushrooms, which like to grow from the roof as well. And so what I may try to do here is let's go to our plants menu real fast with the ringlet vines. I'm actually going to put these back to... does not grow inverted, and we'll have that go from here with all of the little mushrooms. With the flower root, it likes middle elevation. So what we want to do right now is if we wanted to get ourselves a badass flower root, we need to make ourselves a biome in this little middle area right here. It's not very fit though, and it's not very hardy, so I'm going to make it a little bit more fit, and I'm going to make it, yeah, let's just go up with its fitness a little bit. We don't have any right now to play around with, but we're going to make some in just a minute. We got some badass mushrooms growing right here. We got a little bit of vinage growing. That's pretty cool, too. Pretty soon they'll be making internet videos to entertain us all with their 3-second snippets. Grab that right there. Okay, we've got a full power bar. So now what I wanted to do, oh, yes, we're going to make any little bit of terrain that we can. So let's start out right here and just see what we can maintain. And yeah, there goes the flower root, and what you'll also see is even though the tall grass does not like the high biome, it does like the middle biome. And so we got some new stuff growing right there. That's pretty cool. So as you can tell, very low-key game. It's the kind of game that I really assume that like Bob Ross would like a game like this. Very relaxing, very chill little game that does not take like a ton of brain power, but at the same time, you pay attention to it, you fiddle with things, and you try to make a world of your own creation. We got a curly bush, which has evolved now. There's a joke in there somewhere that I could probably drop. Oh, look at this. Is that it right there? What is that? Let's find out. So we got bacteria, we got mushrooms. Yep, that's it right there. And it likes to grow in low elevations. It looks like it's going to be competing with our tall grass, so it may choke out the tall grass. We'll figure out what's going to happen right there, I guess. If we really wanted to make this more interesting, we could put a low cave right here, and then we could make it grow inverted so that it would grow upside down in the low biome if we wanted it to. Might be kind of cool to keep it clear of some of this tall grass so that we can max out our biomass, which is at 632 right now. But for right now, let's max out that meter. And what I'd like to do is let's get some phosphorus. It's not phosphate, or it's phosphane. Is that what I said earlier? It's phosphorus. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing earlier. So anyways, we need to work on our radiation. Ideally, you want all these meters to be maxed out because it will make your life a little bit easier. So let's take this. We're going to gain some power for right now. Random things will happen to your world every now and again. So like there will be random landslides and things like that you got to deal with that'll cause extinctions and things of that nature. Not super often. Not enough to where you have to sit around and worry about it. But you should prepare for it and always keep your power bar full if you're not otherwise doing anything else. Because at a certain point you will have evolved like all of the random species that you want. We got deep roots right there, and you're going to see those grow into all this deep soil right here. Keep an eye on that for just a minute. And in fact, I'm going to get radiation up so that it's a little bit more tolerable. Get a tad more power. We'll take phosphorus up. We're going to harvest some of these guys right here. Maybe go up to this top layer, grab some of these mushrooms real quick because that's my favorite thing to do on a weekend. We'll take this. Let's go with a little bit of extra heart in the environment. Heart is one of the things that is not really super well explained. It seems like it has a pretty major effect on the blooming of life in your environment, and so I tend to try and keep it high over a lot of the other parameters. We'll also put carbon up a little bit more. Look at that. We got that breath of life filling everything, and you can actually turn this off. Once you filled your entire biome with this life right here, what you can do is you can turn that off so that the life overlay can no longer be seen, so you get a better saturation of color, and you can pay attention a little bit better to just the things blooming on your screen. We've evolved trees right now, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what trees like so we can grow a couple of those. They're large, they hate high elevation, so that means they should grow at mid, and they should also grow at low, provided you give them enough space. And so what I'd like to do for right now is I'm actually going to whittle away at this, and I'm going to give me a low biome that's going to gather right there. I like to keep things flat. I don't like things to be kind of like all over the place and procedurally generated and just all over the place. So what I like to do is I like to take things and make them very, very organized because that's just the kind of person that I am. But whatever biome that you want to cook up for yourself, feel free. Just have fun with it. This is not a game with scores or anything that you're supposed to be doing at any given moment. You're supposed to just have fun with it and make whatever you want to make with this biome and sandbox that the game has provided you with. Let me go ahead and get a little bit more power out of here. Randomly, these are going to dip too as well. Sometimes they go up. So occasionally what will happen is the phosphorus will be depleted, and then all of a sudden overnight the phosphorus will come back just on its own. Like our oxygen just dropped right there. So I'm going to bring that up real fast. We have all of our cells alive at once. Very, very cool. And so everything that is available inside of our... Well, I don't see any trees anywhere. Where are trees at? We've also evolved moss. And so you're going to want to watch out for moss. It'll grow on top of stuff depending on the altitude. And so I think it's going to be... There it is right there. You can see it along the bottoms. We're going to grow some moss along this bottom. I'm going to increase the sunlight as well because I think that if you need plants, not always. I mean, mushrooms burn up in the sun. They don't like it. Mushrooms are kind of like the ginger kid of the plant environment. Technically, I know they're fungi. Just go with it. They burn up in the sun very, very easily. It's ginger kid problems. And so we want to keep them out of the sun. But for right now, let's go ahead and even this all out because I don't like the way that it looks. I'm going to make it nice and even, like a very, very basic level. Let's go ahead and harvest up some of our bacteria, some of our roots, and some of our other little things that we got going on. Let me take a little bit of moss up in here. Yeah, throw that into the mix. Take the shovel real fast. Even that on out. There we go. And I'll fiddle with some stuff in a minute. You'll see what I'm working towards here. So I'm going to take that layer off right there. And really what I'd like to accomplish is I'm going to try and take this all the way across. And so there it is right there. We got a lot more hanging moss. It's thriving right now. We're doing really, really well as far as our biomass is concerned. I'm going to fill that back up, though, and we're going to get back to digging here. I'm going to bring this over to this side. Yeah, that looks good. In this middle biome, I'm going to give it a top and a bottom, and that's for a reason. Some things like to grow on top. Some things like to grow on bottom. And so you got to give everything space for where it likes to grow. On this side, I keep hoping we'll get a tree out of here somewhere, but it looks like we're not going to be that lucky. We may have to fiddle with the parameters a little bit before we get a tree. So let's give us 2 layers. I'm going to go through and whittle this away. We just evolved filaments, and as I understand it, filaments like caves, if I remember right. I think filaments are more or less the same each time that you play, but I think they like caves. So let's think about it right now. What I'd like to do is let's take this, and I'm going to have this dip downwards, sort of. And then from there, I'm going to build myself a cave on this side. Just something that's nice and sort of blocked off from the rest of the biome. And what I'd also like to do is I'd like to take some of this deep soil and I'll pop a hole in it real fast. Because I want to see if something will grow in that hole. And if nothing grows in that hole, that's perfectly fine. But I just wanted to check it out and see. And so we'll pop a couple of these in here. And I don't necessarily think we have anything just... Oh, there's the filaments right there. So they do. They like to grow in these little square-shaped areas. And it looks like they like to grow on the bottom. Let's have a look at their parameters and find out for sure. So with filaments, they like to grow anywhere but middle environments. So technically, I think we could probably get away. Let's harvest up some of this stuff right here. Our mushroom just died on this side. I wonder why it died. Is this one dying too? Nah, it's growing back. I think it was just a life cycle. We should be good. I think we're covered. And so what I'd say might be a smart decision right now would be to move some of this around. Like maybe take the vines and put them at middle altitudes possibly so that we could max out our biomass here. I'm going to put in another layer of soil though because I think we need it. Maybe take this down just slightly. Not a lot, but enough to where we get a nice rich layer in the middle of that deep soil. There we go. And so once we got the deep soil right there, we've actually lost a lot of our carbon. So you want to pay attention to these things over here. Sometimes these meters will dip off on the side, and if they do that, you can actually accidentally have your whole biome go extinct on accident, just in case. I do think this game would be really, really well received in a mobile environment. Maybe just something to think about there. Maybe make some kind of like little mini game involved with harvesting some of the plants and things like that. I think that, you know, for the PC, I think it's a little bit light for a lot of players, but it is sort of fascinating just playing with the game. But I think this game could do very, very well on mobile because it's the sort of game that you could play for like 10-15 minutes, save your game real fast, and then come back and fiddle with it for a little while. Once you maybe got your gumption for the game back up, I guess, or your passion for the game back, it's easy to get bored with it playing more than maybe 45 minutes or so. But then you come back, and I find myself playing for like another 30-35 minutes and zoning out, and it's very, very odd like that. Hanging flowers have now evolved. How do those differ from what we already had? So we've got hanging flowers. Those are a little bit different. They hate low elevations, which means that they like middle or high elevations. Let's see if we can grow one of these little guys over here. Looks like the moss is taken over on this side. Let's give that a little bit of love. We'll watch what happens right here. Maybe take it up a little bit higher at the same time. Hey, there we go. And just let that see. I don't think that's the one that we were going. Oh, there they are right there. You can see them. They're in between, actually. If you take a look, they're very, very small. You see that little like 2-3 pixel thing that's growing right there? I think that's our guy. Well, maybe it's not because they're down here too. Oh, they harvest, so yeah, that must be them. That must be them. So it's very, very strange how even like little things happen. You see those little twinkles down there? That means that something has changed. So like one of your environments has changed around a little bit, or perhaps one of your parameters has lowered or raised. Maybe there's been an explosion of life. There are little random events that start to happen as you get further in. It looks like our water amount has become unfavorable too. So let's get this thing nice and soaked up again. And so we've got all switches in all positions. There are milestones in the game, and those are hidden from you, so you don't exactly know what they are when you first start playing. And so they tend to just unlock along the ways. I think I'd actually like that if you could see what they were while you were playing so you could start working towards them. It might give the game a little bit more of a gamey feeling to it, instead of, like I said earlier, like an interactive screensaver that you can fiddle with when you're not working on other stuff. This would be the kind of game that I would keep running off to the side, kind of like Network Sniper or Cookie Clicker, while I'm doing other stuff, like when I'm supposed to be working. We've harvested 2,500 small plants in this little 18-minute period that we've spent together here. I want to grow a tree. Let's look at a tree here. I want to grow one very, very badly. Where are my trees at? Where are my big arboreal edifices hiding at? And so it hates high elevations. That's okay. Does not grow inverted. Its fitness is very, very good. And so maybe we consider... Let's make it like middle elevations and see if that helps. Because we got a lot of stuff going on over here. And I think if we could get a tree, that'd make me pretty stoked. So let's see how far out of our way we can go to get a tree in here. As of right now, it appears to be the moss is taking over everything. And so maybe that's what's choking it out. Let's go ahead and take the moss real fast. And let's kill that off entirely. Let's lower its fitness a bit. And then we're going to make it... I don't know what friendly does. I think hardy means it kills whatever's next to it. Let's make it friendly instead. And see if maybe... Oh, wow, that killed it right off. Okay. Well, the amount of wind has gone down, so let's play with that for just a minute. I'm going to try and get us a tree by the end of the episode. That's what I'm really stoked about here, is getting a tree out. So take that right there. Do trees take longer, maybe? Let's go ahead and turn up the speed. It might be the case that, no, something's going wrong with our tree right now. Let's find out. Because that's the one that we don't have growing, and I want it. I want a tree very, very badly. So, it likes middle elevations. It will not grow inverted. It is hardy. Let's make it solitary real fast and see if maybe that'll help it grow. So we got the plump bush right now. Got another variation on the bush that has otherwise become very, very common around here. You can see it on this level. Oh, is that our tree? What is that? Or is that the plump? Oh, it's a plump bush. Okay, so it's actually competing with our random little vine thing right now. I don't know. If you've studied evolution and you've had like a biological education, or if you just like fiddling around with plants, I found this game to be a lot more fascinating than I expected it to be. Maybe it's because the soil is not cultivated enough. Let's maybe take something that normally grows in our soil over here. I think we could possibly also get away with digging a couple holes in here and just sort of seeing what happens. Maybe it also requires maybe deeper topsoil, and that's what it needs. It doesn't need deep soil, it needs topsoil or something. Got our little Tetris shape in here. Makes me pretty happy. Reminds me of ye olden days in gaming. Let's continue trying with this, though. I think we can get a tree out if we really go for it. Has anything fallen off just yet? Everything's good. Let's take a look at our tree one more time. Let's make it friendly. Let's try that and see if that varies anything along the way. Move these off to the sides. Maybe we'll try and grow it. Maybe it doesn't have enough space over here. That's the only thing that I haven't considered. Let's dig this down a little ways, and we'll give it a tiny bit of room to play with on this side. There we go. And now that we've watched that, let's take a look at it. It should mature pretty quickly if we fiddle with it like that. Maybe the roof hangs too low. The trees are pretty big once they start to grow. I'm having trouble getting this little guy going. Maybe it needs something in the soil below. So let's take a look at our bacteria for a moment. And let's make it so that it hates high elevations instead. And so it's going to die off up here, and it's going to fill in this little region. I don't know, sometimes if you let your soil fill up with other things, sometimes it enables other stuff to grow. And so if you're playing around with things, sometimes it can help out by just letting it go for a minute. Now I realize at this point, a lot of people are going to be bored by this game, and I don't really have a review for you because this is such a niche title that it is difficult to review. The people that are going to like it, they're going to like it because it's laid back. You can chill, you can play it at like 2 in the morning and relax before you go to bed or whatever. It's sort of like the video game equivalent of just like zoning out and reading a very, very passive book or anything like that, or looking at artwork or watching a very relaxing video before you go to bed, except that you get to click around and play with things and you can make it look the way that you want it to look. I think the people that are going to like it will like it based on this video alone because you've basically got what's going on with the game to begin with. I think I need more radiation for right now. Let's get that radiation rock and make it favorable rather than not favorable, because I think it killed off some of our filaments right there. You can see it happening. But yeah, what I like about this game is that it's a relaxing experience where there's no points, there's no scores, you're just fiddling with stuff. Playing around with knobs and dials and things like that, and just sort of waiting to see what will happen as you play the game, because you don't really know until you fiddle with things for a while. There are a lot of little plants in the games, and there are a lot of things that can regrow and be fiddled with, and they'll come out differently depending on the way that you etch out the topography and things of that nature. You can play around with caves, single slots. Sometimes you'll have things that are like a rectangle shape that'll only grow in certain areas. A lot of cool stuff available, and so it's a game that I think you should try out if you're into these sorts of things, kind of games that are theoretical and trying to do things. That's what I like about it, is that Xenobloom is not a game that's concerned about what people are going to think about it. It's just a game where you can tell somebody had an idea and they sat down and they started playing with it, and because of that, there was not bleed over from other ideas. You just ended up with a very odd, very niche, very sort of intriguing, relaxing game. And so anyways, the game is called Xenobloom. You can get it for $4.99 on Steam right now if you wanted to check the game out. I played it enough at this point. I figured that if I play a game for more than a couple of hours, that means that I probably enjoyed it quite a bit, so I should put it on Weekly Indie Newcomer. Not going to give this one a review because it's a very, very weird game, and I think I'm not a, ooh, something happened. Bacteria now grows in the opposite direction. Weirdly enough, it looks like the bacteria grows, maybe, let's speed that up. Maybe it grows inside of, well, we've got these scaly things over here too. And I think those can be harvested as, well, no, never mind. Those aren't the scaly. Oh, we've got western fungus now too. Cool. It's western because it only grows on western surfaces, so you can see that happening right there. It looks like it hates middle altitudes too. Man, it's a weird game. If you like plants, if you like biology, if you like evolution and just like playing around with little things, I think people that are predisposed to fiddling around with scientific things like the Lunar Lander Simulator and stuff like that will probably find this to be fascinating, or at least a time killer for a couple of hours. I've enjoyed it, so I figured I would show it off here at the Nerd Castle. Check out Xenobloom on Steam. I got the links down below for you. I like the game, and so I figure that's all that it takes. I will see you next time. If you've never been here before, this series is called Weekly Indie Newcomer, where you and I hang out for a little while and just play around with a game that I've had a lot of fun with. Sometimes I turn it into a formal review. Other times I just make it an impressions video, which is really what I feel like this fell into the category of. Other times I'll just play with the game, and I'll hope that you'll enjoy it too. Either way, I will see you all later. I'll have another video up for you next week, or maybe a little bit sooner, of something a little bit more traditional probably. But I had a good time with Xenobloom, so I figured I would show it off. Hi, I do, and I'll see you next week, everybody.